My name is Doug. I live in Parma, Ohio, and a couple of months ago, I was involved in I was arrested in Parma for. I was outside of a checkpoint. They were doing a sobriety checkpoint around the corner, and I went out and was holding up a sign warning people that the checkpoint was up ahead, and I was approached by an officer of Parma police who, first of all, couldn't tell me anything I had done wrong in the first place, and then when he did make something up that I did wrong, and I confronted him on it, he changed his story and said that, yeah, I was right and that I didn't do anything wrong, but still continued to detain and search and do all the things that I told him not to do. When he had first approached me, the first things out of my mouth was, I do not consent to searches and I do not answer questions. To which he continued to ask me questions, which I kind of couldn't figure out. But in the event of asking me questions and stuff, I had just kept on asking him, am I free to go? Am I being detained? And his eventual answer was, yes, I'm investigating you because you were standing in the middle of the street holding a sign. You're almost causing a traffic hazard. People were about to hit you or whatnot. And that's where I had argued with him and said I wasn't standing in the street. And he said, yeah, I know you weren't standing in the street, but you were hanging over the curb, and I kept on just saying, what's the crime here? Am I free to go? Am I detained? Whatever. At that point, he decided he was going to search me, even though I had said I didn't consent to searches, and he put his hands on me, and I complied basically because I didn't want to get shot or whatnot. So, I just stood there and let him search me, and he felt down, and I had a knife in my pocket, a pocket knife that I carry with me. It has it has a window breaker and a seatbelt cutter because I drive for a living, so I have those things on there to help save my life in the event of an emergency or something. So I wasn't actually carrying a weapon, but as soon as he put his hands on it and felt it, he said, okay, now you're going to jail carrying a concealed weapon. At that point, I told him, okay, well then if I'm going to be arrested, then I have nothing further to say to you without a lawyer. To which he continued to ask me questions about how much I had to drink that night, why I smell like marijuana, this and that and the other thing, all this crap that he was making up as he was going along. And I had admitted to him, I told him that because I had come from dinner and I had had a beer with dinner, so I had told him I had one beer with dinner, to which his response was to write a ticket saying I was intoxicated. He continued to press the fact that he kept saying, why do I smell marijuana? Why do I smell marijuana? In which I just, to get him to shut up, just basically said, you must be smelling things, and I have nothing further to say to you. Which didn't seem to resonate that I was not going to answer questions without a lawyer, and yet I was not afforded the opportunity to get a lawyer in presence. So I basically just tried to clam up and say as little as I possibly could at that point, which they were asking me my name and stuff, and I said that I am not answering any questions, and then that enabled them to put a charge of obstructing official business because I wouldn't identify myself to them. At which point they had me handcuffed and they took my wallet out of my pocket and identified me to them by force, and then they put me in the back of the police car. When they took my wallet out of my pocket, I had said I don't consent to searches again, to which the response was, nobody ever consents to searches when they're being arrested. So they took my wallet and I said, okay, well then I really have nothing further to say to you. And they put me in the back of the police car, and the officer that had started the whole thing, there was now like 3 or 4 cars up there, but the officer had started the whole thing, had come and opened the door and started to ask me more questions about this and that and the other thing, to which my response was just, I have nothing further to say to you, I have nothing to say to you, I have nothing to say to you, just take me wherever you're going to take me and let's get this over with. They took me down to the Parma police station where I was brought in, and they did the searches and took my jacket and my shoes and all that other kind of shit from me, and they put me in a cell where that first of all smelled like piss. When they took me out of the cell, I looked back at it and I could see there was a label on there that said drunk tank or some words to that effect. So apparently I was in a drunk tank, and I was kept in this box for a couple of hours, and the police officer who had brought me in came in and started doing his paperwork there, where he started writing out my tickets and all that stuff, because it's all just tickets. There's not like a an official charge. Like it seems like it's all misdemeanors, like it's just tickets. But he proceeded to tell the story to every officer that came in and brought someone else in. And every time he told the story, he was exaggerating it further and further, to where I was standing further and further out into the street every time he told the story. So I basically yelled at him from inside the glass cage that you're a fucking liar, and you're exaggerating the story, and you even admitted that I was not in the fucking street when you arrested me, and now you're over here telling your buddies that I was doing this, that, and the other thing. So you're a liar and shit. And to which he was started to talk down to me and tell me how I shouldn't be doing this. And like there was a comment thrown around. I remember hearing somebody say, "How old is he?" And like they couldn't believe that someone who was 42 years old is out there risking his freedom for this. And I kind of took offense to that, and I had shouted out to them, "What age do you stop defending liberty?" And to which I got an answer of, "Well, why don't you grab a gun and stand on a forward line, and I fought for my country and this and that and the other thing, and I fought for your freedom to say all these things you're saying," and stuff like that. To which my response was, if you fought in any kind of Gulf War or anything like that, you fought for oil, you didn't fight for freedom, and I didn't ask you to go there, so don't blame me for that. After that shouting match was all over with, he come over to the door and was trying to say to me, like, "Look, I just want to explain my position to you and this and that," to which I was like, "I don't have nothing to say to you. You're a fucking liar. Stay the hell away from me." And he's like, I would defend your right to say what you want to say to the death and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Just get away from me, So I'm sitting in this cell, smells like piss, and it's got to be like 4 hours now go by, and I'm sitting there, and I tried to sleep a little bit, and it wasn't that easy. So maybe I got a couple of winks, maybe I didn't, whatever. But I'm sitting there and I had to take a piss. So I stand up and I look and I tap on the window gently, and I asked the girl who was sitting there, I told her, I said, "I have to pee. Can somebody let me out of here so I can go pee?" To her response to that was, "We're a little bit busy now," and then there was like, she was sitting there doing paperwork, so yes, she was a little bit busy, but down the counter a little ways, there was 3 cops standing there doing nothing. To which I was like, "Look, I got to take a piss. They're standing there doing fucking nothing. Can you let me out of here so I can take a piss?" Their response was, "Piss in the drain." My response was, "Why, so you can fucking charge me with something else?" To which this angry cop came over from the other side of the counter and flung the door open, said, "Let's fucking go," like he was going to take me to take a piss. I was headed towards where I thought the bathroom was, and he grabbed me by the shoulder and shoved me in the other direction and said, "Go over there." And then I went in the other room. There was another bathroom over there. At that time, there was another cop. They had locked me in the bathroom, and there was another cop that came to open the door again. It wasn't the angry one, but I think it seemed to me like what happened was that the one noticed the angry one's actions and told him to go take a powder, and he would handle me from then on. At which point they decided to have me take a shower and disinfect myself or whatnot, so I can go into their main holding unit or whatnot, where they kept me overnight. The cop who arrested me had told me originally that if I could come up with $850 for bail, that I could get out of there without having to go through the shower and the transfer and all that other kind of crap. I mean, it was in the same building, so it didn't really matter, but it just, they told me I was supposed to have $850 to get get bailed out that day. Okay, my wife scraped together and got the money together to come bail me out, only because I had to go to work the next day. So she come to bail me out, and they tell her it's $8,000 now. To which I'm starting to ask from inside the jail, well, how come everybody's telling me it's $850? I'm getting no responses. Nobody's telling me anything. The cops are walking around like nothing's happening. I mean, there's like, it was almost a total stonewall. I go, they put me in there. I go to sleep that night. I wake up the next day in the cell, and I'm in like a sort of a little general population, maybe like 6 guys or whatnot in the Parma police jail there. And we had breakfast or whatever. I'm getting information from the convicts and a little bit of information from the cops, and I'm watching people supposedly accused of crimes being taken out of this place and brought back into this place, and I'm asking him, hey, what happened? Where did you go? What did you do? I was waiting for my opportunity to see the judge so I can find out what the story on this bail is, and nobody was telling me whether I was going to be transferred to another unit or whether I was going to go see a judge that day or whatnot. In the meantime, I'm frantically contacting my wife over the phone, which, if anybody who's been in jail knows that you can only call collect, and it costs about $10 a phone call to call somebody. So I'm trying to arrange these things. We spent about $30-40 in fucking phone charges because of trying to, just make sure that everything went smoothly. And they were juggling me up and down, and I'm trying to tell my wife, like, okay, look, you have to come up with this money, and if you don't, they're going to transfer me to this other place. So if you're going to do it, you have to do it now. At that point, they take me up to the judge, and I go to see the judge, and he says, blah blah blah, this and that and the other thing, and you're charged with this, and you're going to be, they gave me a paper to fill out for a public defender. At the time, I was only working for a temp agency, and I had only worked one day, so I really couldn't put any financial information on this public defender request form. So I basically left everything blank, signed it, and the judge gave me an ROR, which means I was let out on my own recognizance. I get a court date to come back. I think it was November 20th of 2011 that I had to go back. I went back there to meet with the public defender, who basically grilled me on why I hadn't filled out the form correctly, and turned around. His name is James Gallagher, by the way, Parma public defender. I think he's actually public defender for a couple of places, but if he really believes what he told me, he has no business being an attorney for defense of anyone, because he just basically told me that he thinks all his clients are guilty. So, when I told him I didn't trust him as a lawyer, if that was going to be his attitude, his response was to take the incomplete financial form back to the judge and have me refill it out again with current information, which at the time I had, due to the jail thing, I couldn't go back to work for the temp agency, so I didn't have that job any longer, so I had to go find another one. Between the time I had to go to court, I had found another one, and I had only worked there a couple of days, so I could not honestly write down the financial information once again when they had me fill it out. So basically, to me, what happened was that the public defender basically used this financial form to recuse himself of being my lawyer, knowing that I didn't trust him, because we got in a big shouting match over this, what he believed he was obligated to defend me for, and what I thought I was owed by the court, who says you are supposed to have, if you can't afford an attorney, you're supposed to be provided for an attorney, which is what I thought I was going to get. Instead, I got a financial grilling, which enabled him to recuse himself as my lawyer, basically. So I get another court date to go back. I can't remember when it was exactly, but it was, I think, sometime January. And I go back to court, and now the first thing that happens when I go back to court, and I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know any of these, what their procedures are and shit like that. So when I go to court, I'm basically at their mercy. I wait for them to call my name, and they call my name, and they tell me what to do, and I go do it. So I go to call. They call my name, and they tell me that I have to go talk to the public defender. And I'm thinking to myself, we already had this conversation. Are we going to do this again? So I go into the office of the public defender, and he was like, he didn't even recognize me, like he didn't even know who the fuck I was, and we didn't just have this blowout like a month prior or whatnot. And he was like, oh, I said, well, I didn't think you recused yourself of being my lawyer, and I don't trust you, so what am I doing here? And he was like, oh, you're the guy who wouldn't tell me how much he likes to make for a living. And he took the paper back, and I think he went right into the prosecutor's office from that meeting. So what he could have possibly said to him, I have no idea, but for me to speculate would say it was something along the lines of, this guy doesn't want to take a plea, throw the book at him. Okay, which is, I mean, the way the conversation went with the public defender, I wouldn't put it past him to do something like that. They're all officed in the same building. You can't tell me they don't play golf together. You can't tell me they don't buddy up and partner up together. I mean, these guys are supposed to be on the opposite sides of the fence. And, a public defender versus a prosecutor, there's supposed to be a versus in there, I mean, for purposes of defense of myself, there was supposed to be somebody on my side there, is what I'm saying, So I go in to see I go sit back in court after the public defender realizes the mistake that was made, because they sent me to see him when that was already settled. And I go sit back in the courtroom. I get my name called again, this time by the judge, and he basically says to me, you couldn't come out with an arrangement with the prosecutor to plead this down or something like that. And I told him, Your Honor, I don't believe I did anything wrong in the first place, and I really can't be pleading to something that I didn't do. And the judge, he said, why don't you just plead as a disorderly persons charge and we can call this a day? And I said, Your Honor, if I was drunk in the middle of the street and waving a sign, I would more than readily admit that I might have done something wrong and maybe I deserve some kind of punishment for it. But I can't sit here in good conscience and plead guilty to something I did not do. At which point I told him, I have no public defender, I have no money for a lawyer. I lost my second job now due to the fact that I have to go back and forth to fucking court all these goddamn times. They don't want to have to deal with that, so Ohio being an at-will state, they just got rid of me for that or whatever. And I'm sitting here unemployed, waiting for another court date, trying to find employment, and have to explain to people that I need this day off, this day off, this day off to go to fucking court and whatnot. And it's very difficult to plan my life around this stuff now, and having to look for a job. We're getting short on income. It's not very easy to maintain houses and things like that with no money. So they kind of have me over a barrel here. The judge, I think, is a little bit at least receptive to the idea of he didn't seem to dismiss me just as a kook right off the bat when it seemed like he's willing to listen to the case at least, to find out exactly what happened, which I think sits in my favor. I think that may be a little bit something that I can use to defend myself with. And after I got out of court that day, though, I had asked the prosecutor and the judge to see if I would get the same answer. Actually, and the court clerk too. I had asked them if I'm going to be defending myself, so what's my next move? I need a motion for discovery, right? I need to find out what evidence y'all have against me, right? To the answer I got was yes to all the 3 times I asked the question. So I said, well, what do I have to do that? We can't give you legal advice, which seems to be something that they like to say a lot to make sure they cover their asses when it comes to, because they don't want to tell you something that's wrong, which I kind of understand, but this is not something that has to do anything with legal advice, I don't feel. I'm asking a question about how to follow a procedure that you put in place to file a motion for discovery so I can find out what evidence you have against me so that I can prepare the best defense for myself. So I don't consider that legal advice asking for that. They seem to think it is. Nobody will give me a straight answer as to what exactly I'm supposed to do. Maybe you can find forms online. Maybe you can blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. So I come home, I look online, and I find a template for a motion for discovery. I go and input all my information into this template, print out 3 copies. I still have actually a copy. I had to keep a copy for myself. Can that hear from all the way over here?
Probably not. It'll probably change in level a little bit.
I have a copy here for myself in which I just basically stated I put my information, the charges weighed against me, the case number, the incident number, and Motion for discovery. Defendant moves the court for an order of discovery for the purpose of preparing a defense. The items I am requesting are any evidence pertaining to the case. This is to include all officer statements and reports, any dash cam video and audio, any other audio and video evidence collected in relation to this case, any tests performed or results collected, and any other physical evidence pertaining to this case, which I signed and dated it at the bottom. So I was told to take this into the court clerk and submit it there. I take this paper into the court clerk and I say to the court clerk, I hold it up in front of the window and I say, is this good enough for a motion discovery? Is this all you need on here for this? Is there anything else I need to put on here? To which I basically get a shrug off of, yeah, it's great, give me it. I pass it in through the window, she takes it, I'm waiting there, she didn't say anything to me or anything like that, she just takes the paper and goes in the back. She comes back a few minutes later, I'm like, okay, so that's it, or, yeah, that's it, she says. 2 weeks go by, I'm not getting any response to my motion for discovery, so I call up the court clerk and I say, I filed this motion for discovery with the court clerk and I haven't heard anything back from it. When do they usually, how long does it take to get an answer back? And, you know, do you get like a package or, you know, how does it work exactly? I get put on hold. Court clerk comes back a couple of minutes later and says, did you file a copy with the prosecutor? I said, I didn't know I had to file a copy with the prosecutor. Nobody told me that. You said just file it with the court clerk. So she says, well, you have to file a copy with the prosecutor too, and, you know, because otherwise how would they get it? Well, because I handed it in to you maybe, and maybe it's your fucking job to make sure that the prosecutor has the shit that he needs for a case that he does, you know. I mean, I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. So I go and take my second copy and I bring it down to the prosecutor's office. This is like 2 weeks later now, and I bring it down there, and I go to hand it in to the lady, and the lady says to me, did you hand a copy of this into the court clerk? And I said, yes, I did that a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't know I was supposed to hand one into you as well. She took the paper and she brought it. She made a comment, something to the effect of, I don't even know if they're going to look at this because this is not the right form. So I said, well, what does that mean exactly? That means I'm not going to get my discovery? I mean, like, how am I supposed to prepare a defense, you know? I actually, that's how it came about, because I had said, who's going to contact me with the information and stuff? Who's going to send me do I hear from you or do I hear from the court, or how do I get the discovery? Well, when's your court date, she says. I said, March 12th is my next court date. So I said, March 12th. And she says, that's when she said, I don't know if they're even going to take this because it's not the right form or whatnot. I don't remember exactly what she said, but then she said something like, well, they'll give you your discovery package in court. To which I said, you're going to wait until the day of court to give me the things I need to prepare a proper defense for this? And she was basically like, yeah, that's the way it's done or whatever. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think what happens at the next point is March 12th, I'll have to go back, and they're going to tell me that the prosecutor didn't accept the form that I sent them, or they're going to say, here's your discovery, and then I'm going to have to say, well, I need a new court date now so that I can go over all this shit and prepare for it and stuff. And we're going to end up with another fucking court date, and then this shit just drags on and on and on. I mean, I have something here. Pete is here with me, and he can see what I'm showing. This is a picture of the knife I had on me at the time. And as you can see, it has the tools, and what does it say on it?
Police.
Right. Because this is supposed to be issued to, like, well, not issued, but this is supposed to be like, it's designed and made so that police and firemen and EMTs will carry this on them so that they have the ability to break windows in cars that people are stuck in, and, cut seatbelts, cut people out of seatbelts that they get stuck in. And, to cut other things with the knife, obviously. But, I mean, you can see that this is a tool. This is not a weapon, and especially I wasn't, like, waving it around in the air or anything like that. So, if he didn't put his hands on me, he probably would have not even known I had it on me. Yet, maybe my mistake, I should have left it in the fucking car, dumbass. But, I mean, these things, here's ones for firefighters, and then there's another one for EMTs they have. I had the firefighter version, actually, myself. But yeah, I mean, this I as far as I'm concerned, I see it that without the weapons charge, the other two charges hold no merit because I believe that the officer really, had no right to fuck with me in the first place, let alone to put his hands on me to find something that he deemed that I shouldn't have when, as being a driver for a living, I think that having a window breaker and a seatbelt cutter is a valuable tool as a driver, just in case, if I ever get in an accident where I'm stuck in the fucking car and it's on fire, I can maybe crawl my ass out of there, and have a shot of survival. I think that the officer was just being overzealous, and I think that he just wanted to, I'm sure it was discussed on the radio the whole time and shit, and, I'm standing out there with a sign, and, they drive by me, and they drive by me, and they drive by me, and they start talking to each other on the radio and talking about how somebody go see what the fuck that asshole's doing down there, and then I get approached by this cop who just basically wants to get me out of the way, so that they can continue their extortion. So I refused to just go along with that, and they found any reason they could to be able to lock me up. I mean, if I didn't have that knife on me, I really believe that the officer would have probably pushed the intoxication thing, or, I don't know how far he could have went with the I smell marijuana thing, but he would have used something like that other than just the knife to arrest me at the time, just to get me out of the way so that they continue to do what they were doing. I am originally from New Jersey, and I grew up in a neighborhood where I had a Woodbridge police officer living around the corner from me who hated me from the point that I was like 10 years old. And I just was harassed to the point of practically, there was a time in my life when I was a young kid that, due to the harassment of this particular cop and what he was able to get the rest of his department to get behind him and do to me, I seriously contemplated suicide at that time. I didn't think that I could step out of my house without being confronted and harassed by these people at some point. And I had decided to move away from New Jersey to get away from shit like that. And now to come out to Ohio and just find the same kind of aggressive, extortive, it's ridiculous. I found out later on that night that they had 3 arrests, and me being one of them. So all of that resource that was spent on them, however many fucking cops were out there, however many cars they had, the barricades, the this, the that, the portable generators, all the taxpayer money that was wasted netted exactly 3 arrests that night. I was one of them. So that checkpoint only actually arrested 2 people, and I think one of the other 2 people, if I remember correctly, was not even arrested for a DUI. It was like a warrant or something he had on him that he was arrested for. So it's not just DUI that they're looking for at these checkpoints anymore, which to me makes it more against, liberty and the Constitution and all that. It's you're not supposed to be searched and seized. You're not supposed to be just harassed and walking down the street. You're supposed to be able to walk around, and you're not supposed to have to be told by some aggressive officer that you can't stand on this corner because we say so. It's a fucking free country, man. You're supposed to be allowed to be out there. You could stand on the corner all you want. They come up with some fucking stupid law about loitering or something like that to make it so that they have the right to make you move and stuff. I think I was just trying to make my community aware and try to keep people from having to pay exorbitant amounts of money for whatever it is that they decided to pull them over in that checkpoint for that night. And, as far as I'm concerned, I feel I'm being treated unfairly by this whole system right now, especially the stonewalling and what am I supposed to do if this prosecutor decides that he doesn't want to accept my motion for discovery? I'm just going to have to go into court and expect that they're going to be forthright and tell me everything it is, that I'm not going to be finding it out as it happens, And how can you prepare a defense like that? Like I said, I think I have a pretty good defense. I think the fact that the knife is not a weapon, it's a tool. if there wasn't such over aggression that the officer couldn't, just take it upon himself to start putting hands on me, and just the knife was a non-issue. Even when he was searching me, it was a non-issue. It wasn't like I was trying to reach for it. It wasn't like I was going to try to use it on him or anything like that. It was everybody. Well, I don't know about everybody, but a lot of people carry fucking knives. Okay, it's just it's a good number one, good way to defend yourself. Number two, good way to cut plastic off of something. I mean, it's just there's millions of uses for knives, and people carry pocket knives all the time, and it just like I said, the other two charges shouldn't even have anything to do with anything, because if he would have just said, hey, he's got a knife on him, okay, and he ain't trying to use it on me, so what's the big deal? The other two charges wouldn't even come about, If I wasn't being harassed and forced to identify myself and, do all those things like that, I would have just went along. As soon as he came up and said, you're standing too close to the road, I backed up 10 feet and was like, okay, thank you. That should have been the end of the interaction right there. But no, he wants to think that he's going to try to investigate some kind of bullshit crime and give himself permission to put his hands on me and, try to find something on me that I have or don't have, or, I mean, I didn't think it was illegal to carry a knife, especially a knife that's a tool, as the way this one is. And in my profession, a necessary tool, I believe. Actually, I mean, you don't even have to drive a car. If you have one of these things, you increase your chances of surviving an accident. I mean, but you're not going to be able to get away with that, because they're going to search you and then they're going to say that you have a weapon. Not right. Not right at all. Parma, it just, I mean, it's been seeming to me, and I know that Parma has a reputation of being a shady department. When I first moved here, it was a racist thing. People in the neighborhood would, when I would gather at bars with people from the neighborhood and trying to meet people when I first got here, it would be like, oh, Parma police has a reputation of being racist. They pull over anybody black that comes through these streets. Hearsay, whatever it may be, I don't know how true it is, but that's the reputation that preceded them when I got here. So, I don't think anything I've said tonight is really out of the realm of possibility. So, I believe I'm being treated unfairly. I can't, like I said, I can't plan my life. I can't, I'm beholden to this court case now, and, it's really ridiculous.